He said that Jesus Christ has risen, and he is the open door.
Well, how you doing, everyone? Welcome to another episode of the Cajun Conservative, where I talk about life, I talk about liberty, and I talk about the pursuit of happiness. And I show the world that Cajuns do have intelligence. Hope you're having a good day, good week, wherever you are located. Remember to hit the subscribe button and follow buttons on all our platforms: Apple, Google, Spotify, Amazon, Anchor, YouTube, and Rumble. As you can tell, if you're watching on Rumble or you're watching on YouTube, I am not alone in the studio tonight. I have the owner of the Rustic, Renegade, also co-host of Implicit Bias and host of Firearms Friday on KPL 96.5, Mr. Caleb Morse. Caleb, how you doing, brother? Welcome to the podcast. Tongue-tied here, man.
It happens. No, I'm great, man. It was a wonderful day. We're still recovering from Independence Day, but it's a good day.
It was a good Independence Day, man. It was I cut grass all day. I cut grass. And we were talking before the show, and I was telling you everything that we got going on here at BGS Media. And my brother, that's the day to cut the grass. I cut 3 yards. So I was really happy for my independence that day.
That's how you flex on being able to afford fuel, is when you can cut 3 lawns in one day.
Yeah, one was paid. The other one was for the father-in-law, and one was for me. So, but hey, how's everything going at the Rustic Renegade, and how's everything going with you?
It's going well, man. It's going well. We're kicking off this middle point in the year where we're trying to look forward and playing Q3, Q4, and trying to make sure we're meeting our goals and meeting our life goals, our spiritual goals, and our projections that we had in place for us. So,
hey, that's good. Now I've been there a few times, and I went a couple of times to look, but the other day was the first time I met you, and I was repairing my firearm. I need to put a shotgun plug in. So y'all did a great job on that, by the way. I'm not illegal no more. So,
no more.
No more. Well, that was the thing, and I told my dad that I watch a lot of Louisiana Law that's on Discovery, and I love that show. But I was watching the game wardens check gun plugs. I'm like, man, I wonder why they doing that. When I research, I was like, I need to check my firearm. I could hold 5 shells in that sucker. So I was like, I was lucky for all the years I went hunting, and I did not get stopped by game ward.
And it's one of those things, a lot of people buy used shotguns, or a shotgun gets handed down through our family, and you use it from a young age to wherever we get now. And that's not one of the things many people check. And oddly enough, when it comes to...
A little bit closer.
All right, sorry about that.
No problem.
Now, so oddly enough, when it comes to firearms that you hunt with, in the state of Louisiana now, shotguns are the only ammunition that is only firearm that has an ammunition capacity limit. You can hunt with a rifle or a handgun and have any capacity. You can hunt with an AR-10, AR-15, AK, standard bolt action, whatever, and have a 100-round drum if you want to. But a shotgun, 3 rounds. That's all you get with a shotgun.
And I understand the law. It's for like duck and everything like that. Also squirrel too, because if you miss a squirrel, you have to try to hurry up and shoot again, and that gives them time to run away. But the only thing I didn't like about it is the self-defense mechanism of it, because more than 3 rounds, and according to the president and according to everyone on the left, we don't need that many rounds. But if Red Dawn happens, I want to have many rounds as my gun as possible.
Well, it's not even Red Dawn, right? Let's say you're out downtown Lafayette, downtown New Orleans, or whatever else. Most people prepare to be attacked by one person, right? Oh. They think, one person's going to come after me, one person's going to try to steal my wallet, one person's going to try to steal my firearm, beat me, whatever it is. You're a big guy. Do you think one person's going to come after you, or do you think...
No. It didn't happen. It was prevented, but they had 2 guys one time trying to circle me around. And of course, I was young. I didn't have a firearm at the time. And my mom started blowing the horn when they realized, and I think I was 17 at the time. So yeah, I can understand. Not one guy's coming after me.
Yeah, and that's how it is across the board. Very rarely is it one person.
Let me fix the noise gate. You can go ahead.
So very rarely is it one person attacking another. Normally it's a group of individuals or a couple of individuals, so at least 2 coming after somebody. So you always have a lookout, and you always have somebody doing, not always, but predominantly, doing the violent or dangerous crime. So be prepared for 2 at a minimum. So if you're talking 3 rounds, right, for self-defense, whatever else, 3 rounds, now with 2 people becomes 6 rounds. Well, let's say those 3 rounds don't work. Do you know how many rounds it takes, or how many projectiles it takes to put down a threat?
Only one if you're doing a good shot, but if you have multiple, it's going to take a few rounds.
As many as it takes, right? Because
Right.
the human condition wants to live. So the only way to mitigate that, if you're going to use a firearm, is to poke holes in the human condition. And it can be anywhere from 1 round to 15. If you look at the statistics on firearm shootings that law enforcement engage and everything else, normally 35, 40 rounds are shot if there are that many available. And then even then, the threat itself can continue on and press on. So limiting the capacity, there's the logic and the stats aren't there for it. They get that 3-round minimum or less than 10 rounds because they say, not they say, but when you look at most concealed carry encounters, it's 3 rounds that are shot. It's always up close. It's 3 rounds that get off of me, and then someone tries to run away. Now, that's in concealed carry instances. That's not in all instances across the board. So there's a lot of data out there, and no matter what data you look at, if you try to skew it, it's easy to skew.
Hey, on that note, as we're talking about laws, let's go ahead and start diving into the new gun law that passed a few weeks ago. Caleb, you know that there's 15 Republicans that went ahead and signed that bill.
You're talking about on the federal level, right?
Yeah, the federal level. I don't think Louisiana had not lately. I don't think they put any gun laws.
Yep, same day.
Really?
Yeah, same day. Louisiana had a state law that came out as well. So it wasn't restrictive like the federal law was. The state law, they actually voted on it that day, and it was to allow veterans to carry a firearm, or veterans and current service members to carry a firearm concealed without additional training and without having to have a permit. Right now, you have to go through an 8-hour block of instruction, apply to the state for a permit, you get a concealed carry permit, you can carry in 39 states. This one, if you're a current service member or a former member, so a veteran, you don't have to go through that training. You just walk around, you have a veteran ID on you, and you can carry concealed. Now,
So you already would have that training in the military, correct?
the military doesn't teach many people, I'm not going to say anyone, how to carry concealed.
Okay.
You know, when I was a soldier, we were very overt. That's what they trained us for. And most people in the military, they don't really train with handguns. Now, I agree with this to an extent where, look, it's nice. Yeah, I get that a lot of veterans have had more firearm training than other people. But the way I disagree with this is, as a veteran, I don't believe I should have more rights than a civilian. I don't believe that I should get preferential treatment over somebody who didn't serve. I believe that we as Americans are all equal.
Right.
So when I see this, and I'm like, look, I don't think a vet deserves extra rights just because we raised our right hand. That's my issue with this. And look, I'm sure that someone's going to disagree with that, and I get it.
Well,
But
I can understand both arguments, but I see, like me and my wife, we've been waiting because we want to go through concealed carry, and that is because of personal reasons of protection and all that stuff. But like you said, why give you special treatment? Because Louisiana was trying to pass the concealed carry law to where we wouldn't need a training.
Yep.
To go through that, but it was shot down by John Bell Edwards twice, and I don't think it's going through the veto session this year.
It was going through this when it didn't make it out of committee, and the reason it didn't make it out of committee is it had really good headway, had really good steam, and then, like a lot of politicians do, they said, hey, this bill has a good chance of passing. Let's add a lot of other stuff to it and hope nobody notices. And it got shot down. There was a lot of stuff in there that was done in haste, in my opinion. And it didn't have a lot of statistical and logic backing it up. So whenever it got time to go into committee, they're like, no, this is no longer what we voted on. This is something new. Let's assess this again later.
But how did that get where the veterans could get their firearms? Was that like a separate bill?
Separate bill.
Okay.
Bill.
So, and I can agree to an extent. Now, like I said, the military has more training in certain areas, but I do agree with you on that. I don't think it's right that a normal citizen can't have the same. Because look, I never served in the military, so that's pushed me at, not as a second-class citizen, but it makes me feel that way.
That's the fear I have, right? Like, we all serve our nation, like we all serve our God in whatever capacity we have, right? So because I raised my right hand, doesn't make me any more American than you or anyone else.
No.
And that's my problem with it, right? And am I being maybe very cautious? I believe so. Do I think that their intent was to create this gap or this separation from those who served and those who didn't? No. Do I think they had good intent when they did this? Yes.
Yeah, they were looking out for the veterans
Right.
and anyone else that served.
But it's still, every time I do something and every time I look at this kind of thing, I'm always thinking, let's try to find out what else can go wrong with this. Let's try to find a way to improve this. Let's make it to where it's a smooth transition, because something's gonna arise later. You're gonna have a problem later. But if we can iron that out and smooth it out in the drawing process, right? When we're sitting down trying to draw a route to success, if we can account for all of these hiccups, then we know how to mitigate them.
Yeah, and so on that note, so how's the transition as a business owner here with that law? Because the veterans don't need to show an ID for a concealed carry. Do you ask for that, by the way, or do you just sell them the firearm just to?
So you don't need to have a concealed carry to buy a firearm or anything like that. So now, if we do ask, because under current state and federal law, Louisiana's concealed carry permits, its background check supersedes the background check to purchase a firearm, because it's more invasive. So we ask you if you have one. Hey, look, if you have one, let's go ahead and make a copy of it. It does supersede it. It makes the background check process a whole lot easier. So that's one of the things we ask for. Last class, I hold my concealed carry class is the last Saturday of every month. The last one was a few days after this bill passed. Now, August 1st is when it goes into effect. I announced it before the class, because everyone's paying to be in this class. I'm like, look, anybody here's a vet, raise your hand. If you're a veteran, understand that you don't really have to go to this class anymore. This is what's going to come into effect in August, and I laid it out for them. I said, if y'all want to go ahead and leave today and not pay me the money that we agreed to and everything else, I get it, I understand. If it's about the money, I support you. I was like, but these are the things we go over in my class, and if you want to stay, let's knock this out. And no one got up, so they all stayed for the class.
At least they stayed for the class and paid you to get that gun education, because if we can jump onto the federal level, I think that's what's wrong with the federal level bill. They address mental health issue, they address school protection, but they put in red flag laws and a number of other things in there. And this is what I look at it, Caleb, is that they don't look at the heart of the issue. People might disagree with what I'm about to say, but my 3-year-old son the other day, well, now 4, I called his mom and said, hey, tell him to come over to the house. That's how I knew the gun was where I brought the firearm. We were cleaning all the guns. We were making sure they were working properly. We was cleaning them getting ready for the upcoming season. And I called my wife and said, look, bring both of my boys. One of my boys already left, but I was sitting my 3-year-old down at the time, and I said, look, this is how you clean a firearm. Oh, he's only 3 years old. Yes, but I'm starting him off young. I'm showing him gun safety. I'm showing him how to respect the gun. My sister's a law enforcement officer. She was cleaning her service weapon. She was showing, look, this is how you open the chamber. You make sure it's open when you clean. I think if that would be done more in America, and it goes back to your point with the class, yeah, these veterans probably knew what to do, but hey, let's get that extra training to go ahead and to make sure we're doing everything correctly. And I think that's a big problem in America. Is first off, it's the heart issue, but at the same time, is just a lot of people do not know how to truly understand the firearm or respect the firearm they need to do.
Well, it's not so much they don't, and when I say it's not so much, I don't believe it's just that they don't respect the firearm. A lot do. A lot are afraid of it, though. And I think the main problem we're having right now is a lack of respect for human life and the human condition. I've got 2 boys, one's 17, one's soon to be 13 now. And at a very young age, I trained them about firearm safety. And, at one point in their life, it was, hey, you see it, you don't touch it, you come get me.
Right.
And that was the talk, right? And then it evolved into more talks, and I got them more comfortable with it. And look, I've got family that are vehemently against firearms. That they don't want them in their house. They don't want me to do what we do. They don't want any of that. And I get it. That's their opinion. But I don't go and try to force them to conform to my way of life. So they don't try to force me to conform to their way of life. And I'm real big on firearm education and firearm training, because my goal, like especially my kids, is I want them to do things that I enjoy with me, and we can enjoy them together. Just like going hunting, just like going fishing, just like riding motorcycles or going horseback riding.
The one that's passing right now.
Yeah. So, I want them to enjoy the things that I enjoy, because then I can do the things I enjoy with my kids. And we target practice, and we shoot, and we clean our firearms and everything together. And it's another moment for me to teach them life lessons and for us to bond.
On that note, we're going to go ahead and take a break. We're already at the 15-minute mark. What time goes when we're having fun, huh?
Oh, yeah, flies by.
We'll be right back after this short break. How you doing, everyone? Isaac here. I'm the Cajun Conservative, and I want to thank Brother Lanny Hayes from Hayes' Dump Truck Service for their generous support of the Cajun Conservative and Brothers Just Searching. Hayes' Dump Truck Service serves the Lafayette and surrounding areas. If you have any job that you need done, like cleanup or hauling material to your job site or your home, we haul limestone, we haul sand, we haul topsoil, any type of material you need. If you're in the Lafayette and surrounding areas, please call Brother Lanny Hayes at 337-852-8043. Remember, Hayes' Dump Truck Service, where Jesus is Lord of the company. All right, everybody, welcome back to the second segment of the Cajun Conservative Show. I am with Caleb Morse, the owner of the Rustic Renegade, and we were supposed to talk about laws and stuff, but we started talking more about gun safety. I like that, though. And you know, Morse, I don't know if this is, I know you have your own podcast, The Implicit Bias. A podcast is a lot better than a radio setting.
You have a lot more freedom.
Yes, a lot more. And one of my friends told me, they said, man, you should go on the radio. I'm like, well, I would be more time restricted. I put my own time restriction on myself to make sure I don't go over. But yeah, I just like the freedom that, and especially with a guest, especially talking about firearms, I love it. So you don't know where this is gonna go.
Well, it's one of those things. There's so many facets to it that you can. I go down rabbit holes all the time, right? So you end up getting sucked into one, and then you're like, oh well, and back to the main thing. So, because I know what you were talking about before was the red flag laws. They expanded background checks on minors and a number of other things. But the truth is no real statistics of any of the mass shootings that have existed would this have done anything on. The expansion of background checks for minors. So if you're under the age of 21, you can legally, in the United States, you can legally purchase a long gun, being a rifle or a shotgun, right? Long gun. And what they want to do is they've opened up to where what used to be sealed court documents are now open. So ages of 16 to 18, any court documents, anything that happens, if you get in trouble, it's going to be used in that background check to process you. But they still have the exact same date, so it's a 3-day wait. You have 10 days where they can get back after the fact and say, look, yeah, we didn't get to you in time, and legally, yes, you could sell them the firearm, but now they're in denial and we need to get that gun back. So they can still do that. In there, they addressed a lot of, well, they didn't even address it. They looked at a lot of things. They put the red flag laws to where now on a federal level, you can report a neighbor, a stranger, anyone whatsoever. You can report them as if they're a danger to yourself or others with no basis, no medical basis. And that's what I don't like about this.
Yeah, it's kind of shaky because if you have if you just don't like a person and you call now, correct me if I'm wrong, isn't that up to the states to decide if they're going to implement it?
It is up to the states, but just like everything else that Uncle Sam puts out there, there's something attached, right? So I'm not saying it's in there right now, but they can tie up federal dollars because right now there's grants in there. The first 25 pages of that bill, there are 80 pages on it. The first 25 just refer to grants.
Wow.
And how many states can get grants and for how many years they can get the grants and so forth. I think it's 11 states, and it's grants up to like $30 million, I believe. And you have to abide by certain clauses that are set forth in this bill in order to get those grants. So it's one of those things
well,
where...
and see, that proves John Cornyn, the senator of Texas, wrong. Because according to him, anybody that don't implement red flag laws can still get the benefits of the cash. If this in that bill is not true.
Yeah, you can't.
So he lied to the American people.
So on page 25 is where firearms start. One of the things they did in there too was they redefined what a firearm dealer is. So they said anyone who sells a firearm with the intent to profit is a dealer. Now, what does that mean? That means if you want to sell a gun to your brother and you're like, look, I'm not using this Remington 870 anymore, and it was a gift to you and you have no money in it, if you sell it for profit, are you a dealer now? Well, according to this bill, you are.
You are, yeah.
And as a dealer, you have to be able to conduct a background check. So they're trying to do away. Now, this is what I believe. I'm waiting on a lawyer buddy of mine to get back with me and see if I'm misunderstanding or if I'm reading too far into it. But I believe they're trying to do away with person-to-person transfers, and everything's going to have to go through a shop.
Wow. Well, I'm trying to remember my constitutionality of law. Isn't that against the Second Amendment? Or I don't know if the Second Amendment really talks about it. It just says you have the right to bear arms.
The Second Amendment doesn't go into the transfer of firearms. It just says that we as a free people have the right to keep and bear arms, right? It doesn't say anything about how you acquire them or anything else. And that's where we get caught up in this minutia. It's, well, these are the steps that we've put in place to acquire these firearms. Well, it's not working the way we want it to, so let's make it more restrictive. But then we go into like New York recently, where New York, the Supreme Court overruled their concealed carry permit application and processing and said it was unconstitutional. So the Supreme Court is starting to vote on things and say, look, it's not our job to make sure that what you're doing is certain things, but it's our job to make sure that it's constitutionally legal.
Right.
The states uphold their own, the powers to the people. Small government has it, then the states have it, up to the big government. The big government is just to oversee it and say, hey, we're not infringing upon everyone else. And that's what the Supreme Court's coming out and saying now on a lot of this stuff.
And which is funny is this bill came down. It's kind of funny, all these gun laws. I didn't even know about the Louisiana gun law with the concealed carriers we talked about in the first segment. But it's kind of funny, all these laws and all this came down after the Supreme Court the same day, which was the day before Roe versus Wade, which was the 23rd of June. You think that was maybe planned that way? Because you never second guess a politician, because they're going to try to make a statement no matter what. And it just felt like look, we know the Supreme Court is going to rule on this. When they rule it, that's when we're going to sign this and show them, hey, we made the laws of this country. You can tell us what you think about it. You can say if it's constitutional, but we're still going to make our own laws.
They had been working on this beforehand. They worked on
Right.
this for a few weeks, but they had every intention of coming out the day that it did. Their goal was to push this through before they went on recess for Independence Day, because they knew when they came back, it would be more publicized, everything else. This was, hey, let's cram it down there, get it rolling, and hope no one notices it until after it's too late.
Well, and that's the thing too. That's what Marco Rubio tweeted out. He's like, I want to read the bill, and then you had Adam Schiff come out. Oh, we don't read bills no more. He's bluntly said, nobody read this bill. It was a compromise. And what gets me upset about this whole thing, because we can dig into the weeds a little bit. 10 Republicans and 10 Democrats got together and agreed on this. And it didn't matter if anybody else disagreed with it. They had them 10 votes. John Cornyn, out of everybody, I wouldn't have thought John Cornyn, the senator of Texas, would have put this together, but he did. He even got booed for it the week before they signed this bill into law. 20 people decided the whole fate of, like, you're just not a gun owner, you're a gun shop owner, and you sell firearms. This is going to put a restriction on you as a gun owner, well, just not as a gun shop owner, and put more regulations on you. And that's what's scary about this. Even with the flag laws, you was talking about the money situation. I told someone the other day, they were like, well, John Cornyn said that they won't have to have put the red flag laws to get the money. I said, do you really think Nancy Pelosi, the one that controls the purse of the United States, hey, oh, you don't have red flag laws, I'm still going to give you money regardless? No, she ain't going to say that. She's going to use that as a political tool.
Yep, it's all leverage. And so we just passed a bill in Louisiana. It passed about a month and a half ago that I helped with, right? And I'm part of this group called the Armory Project. So with us, as a veteran, I want to help other vets. I know a lot of the struggles we go through. So we started implementing this program where if a veteran is thinking of hurting himself, right? If you're having thoughts of suicide or depression, and you say, look, I'm not in the best spot right now, you can come to my shop or other Armory Project members now. You can come to us and say, here, hold this. Just hold on to my firearms for me until I'm better. And that's what we wanted to do. Because right now, the way it is, it's very difficult. There was a lot of implied liability. There was no express liability, but there was a lot of implied liability to where if I gave you your firearms back afterwards and you did something, I could be held liable for it because I knew the conditions that came in.
Right.
Well, we got a bill passed in Louisiana. It's now law that says that we are absolved of any implied liability. Well, we get that going. We make this huge step. Louisiana is finally the first state in the nation to have a bill like this. First state in the nation to have a law in the books that says if you want to help somebody by holding their firearms because they have depressive tendencies or suicidal thoughts, and you just want to give them a little barrier in time, and they want to do that on their own, well, then a month later, this red flag bill comes out. So
wow, it shut down everything y'all did.
It really puts the fear into people because now the people that have used this program, they reached out to me and said, Caleb, look, what happens now? Like nothing happens. Nothing changed. If you want help, we'll put you in the right direction. If you need help, we'll put you in touch with the VA, who has a lot of people on staff for this already. If you don't want to use the VA, well, here are the other clinics that we use. If you're suffering with drug and alcohol addiction, here's someone else that we refer you to. If you're struggling with depression and PTSD, look, here's the people that we refer you to for that. And if you just want to talk, man, that's why we have coffee in the shop, so we can talk. I've sat down with people who are like, look, it's the 5-year anniversary of me losing my best friend overseas, and I just need someone to talk to. And I stop whatever I'm doing and we talk, because I care about the people in the community. I care about my brothers and sisters in arms, and I know what it's like. I know what it's like to struggle and to try to make sure you're right, and that you have the right mask on, and that you're presenting the right image. That way the world doesn't know that you're hurt. I know what that feels like, and I know the loneliness that comes with it, and I don't want people to have that anymore. I don't.
Yeah, like you said, though, but unfortunately the politicians just mess it up with all the red flag laws. And look, like I said, there were some things I did like in the bill, the mental health side of it. I do think we have a mental issue in America, and that can come from the veterans with PTSD and all this stuff. And look, by the way, I didn't say that. Thank you for your service. And anyone else that's
I'd do it
listening.
again in a heartbeat.
And look, like I said, that's a special calling. That's a special calling going to the military, because I don't know if you felt that as a young man saying, look, I want to do it. I never felt that. Now I see what God has me right here on this side of it. But thank you for your service. I appreciate it. But there's this mental health issue in America. We got to understand that's part of it. Do you think they could have addressed this without putting this into a gun bill?
Oh, easily. I mean, all they have to do is get people to enforce the laws that are all in the books.
Right.
Right now, medical professionals are supposed to report certain mental illnesses and certain things into the NICS, the National Instant Criminal Checks and Services System. They're supposed to input that. You have less than 20% input data.
Wow.
So that means 80% of the data is not getting put in there. That means there are huge gaps in this system that we're relying upon. So why not use it more efficiently? Why not use it better? Why not go ahead and take the things that we've already put time and effort into and say, look, let's make this work. We've got it in place. We've got the ball rolling, even though it's not rolling very well because it's oval shaped and it's bouncing all over the place. We can smooth this out. We can make it better. But instead they say, let's put more weight on that wagon. Don't worry about the mule,
Yeah. Unfortunately, the mule's us. But hey, look, unfortunately, even our own backstabbing Cassidy signed this bill into law as well. He voted for it. And this is why he said he voted for it. And I never met him, but I think you probably know Moon.
Yeah.
Moon said it. Couldn't he do this? Couldn't they pass a law without doing this?
Well, and Cassidy, he came out and said that if you disagree with him, you're ignorant. Now, look, I'm ignorant. I am ignorant on a lot of things. I am. I don't know how to do a podcast. I don't know how to do computer design. I'm ignorant of that. That being said, when it comes to the Second Amendment and the firearm community and the rights and abilities we have there, I am not ignorant on that subject. Right. And I disagree with him heavily.
Well, and we pay his check, and we also go to men. Funny, he didn't do this before he ran, but backstabbing Cassidy, that's what I call him. I know Moon calls him a psycho, but it's just funny though that he says this, and this makes a whole nother part of this too, because we talked about the federal gun laws. We brought up the Supreme Court. I know we're chasing rabbits, and I don't mind. I like going around, but the governor of New York said on CBS Morning one time, she said, well, people that carry concealed guns make other people feel unsafe. I ain't gonna lie to you. I like having 5 guys that know what they're doing with a concealed weapon around me. At least I can go down and they pull out their firearms.
Well,
and that's the bad thing about this red flag law. You might not have that no more. That's the loophole to get rid of guns and to stop law-abiding citizens from protecting themselves.
Well, and it puts law enforcement in some really precarious situations, because let's say Lafayette, or here, St. Martin Parish, right? Let's say someone calls St. Martin Parish SO and says, look, I believe that Caleb doesn't need to own a firearm. I saw him speeding or driving erratically or whatever they want to say. Well, now the sheriff has to make a decision. Or the sheriff department actually has to make a decision. Do we go and do we look at this? Do we seize his firearms without due process? Or do we look into this potentially threatening call or whatever, and we kind of delve into it? Either way, taxpayer money is being used, okay? But if they do seize them, now I have no right to due process to get them back. Now I have no right to address my accuser or anything else either in this matter. So it puts you in a spot. And let's say the sheriff department says, look, we're not going to enforce it. All it's going to take is that one time for something to happen. And then it'll be the biggest whirlwind where they're like, yeah, 99 out of 100, it wasn't a big deal. But the one time, and that's what they're saying now, is if it can save one life. Look, that's the beauty of our democratic republic.
Yep.
Is that one life is as important as 100 lives.
But and now you bringing up another issue right here too, due process. I think is the Sixth Amendment that says you're supposed to face your accuser with a jury of your peers. That throws that all out the window. That might even be an issue of constitutionality with a red flag law.
You know, there's a lot that wasn't addressed in this bill. There's a lot that wasn't put in place in the bill. There's a lot of thought that wasn't put into it because they said, hey, this will be good and it'll look good with my name next to it.
Well, and that when it came out, that's what I came on the podcast and I said, this was all built on emotion and to look good. Oh, well, we're running for, because I don't know if John Cornyn's up, but there's a lot of these senators that signed this bill that's up for re-election. And they put, well, look, we did something with gun control. We did something to help the American people, and it makes them look good, but this was all built on emotion. The whole reason John Cornyn started this ball rolling was because it happened in his state, and he felt bad for Uvalde. Look, I felt bad for Uvalde. The shooting in Road Elementary. I felt bad for the Buffalo, the families of the Buffalo shooting. Look, the shooting that happened over the 4th of July, an idiot went on top of a roof and sniped, I think like 40-some people.
He killed, was it 8 to 10 people and wounded 35 or 33 more?
Right. So, and it goes to the question, okay, John Cornyn, what about this shooting? Are we going to, because that's the first thing Biden comes out and says, hey, we need more gun control. When is it going to stop on, hey, let's blame the gun and not the individual holding the gun? And I think that's what John Cornyn did. John Cornyn just went on emotion. All these other 10, including backstabbing Cassidy, they all went ahead and just wrote this bill on emotion. Like you said, there's a lot that's not addressing this thing, and it pushed through.
It's really hard to bring emotion out of that, right? Because, it's a travesty. It's a tragedy. We don't want to say, look, we need to slow down. We need to think hard about this. We need to make sure we're planning it properly. Instead, we want to go, let's fix it. This will fix it. We can't fix everything with the stroke of a pen.
No.
It takes time. It takes planning. And the machine that controls the United States moves slow. So if you want to
it was designed that way.
Yeah. And, you have to put a lot of thought into this and to figure things out. And there's a lot that we're going to see as it progresses where we made mistakes along the way with it. And no nation's perfect. I mean, we're doing a great job. We're blessed by God, I believe. But it's not a perfect nation. We're not. But we're getting better.
Right.
And we as a people need to remember that we have rights. We have abilities. We have constitutionally God-given rights upon us that other nations and other citizens don't get.
Right.
Even though God gave them to them, their own government denies them these rights. So we have to go out there. We have to speak your voice, and you have to be heard, and you have to vote. Have to.
On that note, we're going to go ahead and take the next break. We'll be right back after this short break from Scott Ford from the Scott Ford Show.
Cheers and good on you, boys and girls. My name is Scott Ford, and I have a show on Rumble. It's the Scott Ford Show, all in one word, the Scott Ford Show, and it's on Rumble. And I also have a motivational success show on YouTube. So go ahead and subscribe and ring that bell. That would mean a lot to me. Enjoy your life. Thank you, Isaac. God bless.
You're my peace of mind. When this old world seems to get me down.
All right, everybody, welcome back to the third and final segment of the Cajun Conservative Show, the midweek episode. So, Caleb, we was talking about all the blessings and stuff during the break, grabbing us some coffee, and you putting back on your hat. But we, it's a blessing to be in this spot, to talk about politics and stuff. And a lot of people ask me, can you do a midweek show? Can you do a I'm so glad I did, man, because one, it frees up a lot of my time for other stories, and because it's hard to put a show together when you have a whole week of material, and But man, it just it gives us time to do stuff like this. I'm gonna be honest with you, I'm enjoying this company, man. It's,
This is a good one, man. I'm enjoying this.
yeah,
one.
man. All because of a shotgun plug too. I'm just saying, God said that a while ago. I wanted you to come on. I'm gonna call. Then we were talking about the blessings of God or God working out things, and a shotgun plug, man. Out of a shotgun plug, out of
there's a really cool book. It's called God Winks, and it's a short read, right? Because I have a short attention span, and the book's all about these little moments in life. Whenever God looks down at you, He's like, "Hey, I got you." It's like I never would have taken that right-hand turn, but I took that turn, and there was a car broken down that I was able to help, or there was some other thing. And it's all these moments in time when it's God just going, look, man, don't fight it. I got you.
I got you. I'm leading you down the road for a reason. So, anyway, we was talking about in the second segment about red flag laws and their implement of what's going to happen in society. And I briefly mentioned it, but unfortunately we had another tragedy in Highland Park.
Highland Park
in Illinois. And on one note, one of the strictest gun law states in America.
Well, when you look at where there's more firearm ownership restriction, historically, statistically, there's higher crime. Baton Rouge, New Orleans, Shreveport. New Orleans is really restrictive. Now, the state's got some good laws, but these areas are restricted in certain ways. Chicago, San Francisco, Los Angeles, New York. We can go on and on and on. Cities and municipalities that restrict that right have higher violent crime as well as non-violent crime. And what we're trying to figure out is why. Why is this? Well, it's because of oppression. We've been fighting oppression since we've existed.
Yep. Under Great Britain. And, bringing back to this with high gun laws, I don't know if you've seen, I think it was on Fox News. They did interview a few people around the Baltimore shooting, and they asked them, they said, in your opinion, how could we stop this and that? Wish we had more gun owners on the street, legally gun owners on the streets, because this shooting right here is still fairly new. Mm-hmm. By the time this recording, it'll probably be more information. I can probably cover it on the next episode. But this individual, first off, was sick. Yeah, they have to have a heart issue with it. I don't know the guy's name, and I really don't want to promote a mass shooter on the air. But if you look at his picture, I'm not against that. Well, I have my personal beliefs on tattoos and everything like that, but this dude looked like he was just a mess. And that's what gets me about these whole gun laws. And like we said, this was done in Illinois, and this guy still got a gun. But one of the most restricted gun areas in the nation, still got a firearm and still committed murders and hurt people. Caleb, this is, we've been talking about the Lord a little bit tonight. This isn't just a mental health issue. This isn't just a crime issue. I think this is a spiritual issue. Oh, we've been having spiritual warfare since the moment God said, "Be free." Right. Cain and Abel. Right. Evil will find a way, and unfortunately, in a way like this, that's what we notice. And it's how do we fix it? Do we preach the word more openly? Do we speak it more vehemently? What do we do to get the word out there? And I think that the God's honest truth is just live your life the way Jesus wants us to. Right. Be the example. And if you see somebody struggling, a lot of people are afraid. Yep. We're afraid to say, hey, do you need help? Do you want to talk? And it's just have that real conversation with somebody. And unfortunately, as a youth minister, I see this a lot in young kids growing up doing youth ministry and stuff. Kids are one. Though the youth is some of the they want to hide their emotions. They want to be big and bad. But sometimes as ministers and sometimes as churches, we're not that light and shining place where you can come find refuge. Unfortunately, if you don't dress right, you don't talk right, you don't pay tithes right, something of that nature. And let's be like Jesus. Like you said, let's live like Jesus did. Do you think you would see Jesus tell him, hey, you're not wearing a 3-piece suit and driving a Ferrari, you can't come to the church? He went to the orphans. He went to the people that were outcasts. Prime example, and this popped in my head, Mary Magdalene was a harlot. And she had 7 demons inside of her. Jesus didn't say, I ain't going there. Well, it's the sick need a doctor, and Jesus is our doctor, right? Yahushua is here to help us and fix us and make us better and bring us back to Yahweh, to God. And you need to you don't have to recognize you need that, but we need to realize and recognize that we need to impart that on others. And a lot of times we're like, look, I'm too busy. I started this mantra
3 years ago, and man, it's made me uncomfortable. But it's I am somebody, I am someone. So if I'm with someone doing anything, like we're driving around town or whatever, and we see somebody broken down, or we see something, and if I'm with you and if you say somebody should do something, man, I am somebody, I am someone. So guess who's doing something?
Right.
Me. So it's put me in a lot of positions where normally I wouldn't get involved because I'm either uncomfortable or I'm too busy or anything else. And it's helped me to be a conduit for God. You know, if my wife and I were riding North Louisiana a while back, and there was a car in the median, and I looked at it, and the weather's not the best, and I'm like, oh, look at that, someone spun out in the road. My wife looks and she goes, somebody should help. And I looked at her and I was like, you did it on purpose, you know, that you know it. And she's like, oh man, I'm so sorry. So I turned the truck around, and it was this young girl, like 19 years old, who had just got stuck in a ditch. She had called 911. She was perfectly fine, no airbags deployed or anything else. The police got there, and they couldn't get a tow truck to her. There were all these other wrecks going on, couldn't do anything. Well, I drive an F-250 for a reason. So we hooked her up to a chain, and I explained to her, this is how you get pulled out of a ditch. This is what we do. Walked her through the whole process, pull her up on the side of the road, unhook her, and throw my chain in my truck and get in the truck, and I tell her, look, be blessed. And my kids are like, Dad, who was that? I don't know.
It reminds me of that song. I don't know if you listen to Matthew West, but My Own Little World.
It's
a song. It's a song that's based on that. Is you live in your own little world, but what if there's a bigger picture? What is the reason now? And it's talking about expanding out there, being the hands and feet of Jesus. And I know we're talking about gun legislation, but that fits right here, because I've been saying that there's so much crime in the world is because when the church loses its spirituality, or if there's a spiritual problem in a country, it's gonna fall. You know, you talked about these states that have high gun crimes, have high crime in general. All of these are run by the Democratic state. The Democratic state says we don't want God in our platform. They deny God, and look, you have all this rampage coming out. It's comparison to Israel back in the day. When Israel had a king that wouldn't serve God, guess what? They went to hell. When they had a king that served God and lived by his principles, they had everything was blessing on the nation. It was because they didn't forget God. And I want to make sure I say this right. I think America has more spiritual problems than just problems with Putin or problems with everything else. I think this is a result because of the spirituality America's in, and that's why you have guys going on rooftops, because God is taken out of America.
They're searching for purpose, right? And when you look at Israel was never designed to have a king. God didn't want Israel to have a king. The tribes came together and said, we want kings like everyone else has kingdoms around us. That's what we want. God's like, no, you don't need a king. You've got your council, you've got your evangelists, you've got the prophets, and this is the spiritual hierarchy. And they said, no, we want a king. We want a king. So the first king of Israel,
Saul.
So yeah, and he was ruthless, right? And he's like, you want a king? This is the king you get. This is how it goes. And then eventually through time, they get to David and so forth, and you see the struggle that they had because Israel didn't want to be different anymore, because living the biblical principles is not easy.
No, it's not.
You know, and my boys, I've got two wonderful boys that I've tried to raise what I believe is the right way to raise my children. And I apologize to them all the time. I'm like, kids, look, the way Dad's doing this, it's going to be hard. You know, you're going to struggle with certain things, and there's going to be moments in time where you're like, man, it would be so much easier just to compromise our values. Yeah. But we can't. And that's not who I'm raising. That's not what I was raised to be, and that's not what I'm allowing my family to continue as.
Good point right there. And I do the same thing with my kids. You know, explaining what's right and wrong, just not explaining what's right and wrong, but who said it's right and wrong. And I think that's what America is. You know, America's at a place, well, we want right and wrong. Well, who told us what is right and wrong? Oh, it's by what we feel. Well, if that's the case, I don't want to live in America, because that's a bad state to be in if you rely on your own wisdom and your own understanding of what's right and wrong.
You know, the Pharisees and Sadducees asked Christ, they're like, what's the greatest of all the commandments? They were trying to trip Christ up on his own words. And he said, the greatest of all these is love the Lord your Father with all your heart, all your soul, and all your being, and then love your neighbor as yourself. Our greatest commandment is to love God, love others. That's it. There's everything right there. That's all the laws. The thousands and thousands of pages of laws we have are summed up in those right there.
Right there. If you follow those two, you follow all the 10 Commandments. You follow every law that America. Well, justified laws. Let's go because
Yeah, and we make it complicated, and then we put stipulations on there like, well, what if they're this? What if they're mentally handicapped or have mental issues? What if they don't follow my God? What if they wear the wrong cowboy boots? There's all these what ifs that we put on there, and to look at somebody that you normally wouldn't appreciate or approve and think, look, man, I love you, in God's word and God's heart, I love you, I really do. It's hard. It is really hard. I even talk about it like it's easy, like I did a while ago, but it's hard to love somebody on a biblical level.
Well, and I've had a friend that told me, 'cause I came on the podcast after the shooting in Uvalde, and after the Buffalo shooting, and even after this one, I said, look, the individual still alive that did this latest shooting on the 4th of July in Illinois. I hope he goes to prison. I hope justice is served in that. But I hope there's a minister or somebody that goes in there and says, Jesus still loves you, and wins him over. And I had a friend one time tell me that. He said, man, that's hard. I don't wish that on him. I hope he gets the full justice. That's emotions. But when you're in Christ, it's hard it is hard. Jesus had to love the guys that nailed him to the cross.
Yeah.
So
what was Paul's name before it was Paul? Saul. So he was killing Christians and killing people who follow Christ. And you know as well as I do, whenever he finally died, the gates were opened by this very same people that he had killed.
Right.
And they welcomed him back into the family. And that's what we as Christians are supposed to do. That's the love that we're supposed to have. Now, we're not supposed to turn a blind eye,
right,
and say, look, I'm going to forgive you and I'm going to forget it. No, we don't do that. The Bible tells us that, Jesus actually looks at everyone and says, follow me. If you don't have a purse, get a purse. If you don't have a sword, sell your cloak, sell your purse, get a sword. Right? Because there's a time and place for biblical violence and biblical justice.
Right.
Then you have to be prepared for it.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. On that note, I know that went totally different, but hey, that's fine. This is freestyling tonight. I didn't even have no notes. I was like, when you got here, I was like, hey, I like to talk about this, and this, and we just rolling with it. But I think this is orchestrated by God, the way we're ending this. And as I tell everyone on the show, I said, look, don't be faint of heart because Jesus has overcome the world. And I tell them they can want Jesus, they can reach out to us. I bet they can reach out to the Rustic, Renegade. Oh, yeah. And I never noticed that. I always wondered why when I walked in, why you had the stools and the coffee. Now I realize. So.
Oh yeah, I do a men's Bible study at 6 a.m. every Wednesday. So I have Bible study tomorrow morning.
Right. Hey.
So and we're prepping for it, getting ready for it, and we're gonna run with it and run with God.
What y'all talking about, if you don't mind me asking?
So right now we're going over the book of James.
Oh wow.
Tomorrow I believe is chapter 4 or chapter 5.
Hey, good reading right there. Good reading. I'm studying Galatians right now. So
really?
Yeah, it's eye-opening stuff, and the word is alive, as you can say. And it's kind of funny. A couple of weeks ago, I was in First and Second Corinthians, and I had a debate with somebody today, and that was the whole topic about. So the Lord knew what was going on. I love studying God's word, man. And brothers just searching, man. We dive in. Like right now, we just did the 10 virgins in Matthew chapter 25. You read that, but when you get with a group of guys, it opens up so much perspective on a story you read for years. Like, wow, I didn't even notice that.
Well, there's so much weird stuff in the Bible too, and then every translation means something different. So when we look at it, we were talking earlier, when you look at things, you look at it from a 21st century American point of view, and not from a Greek or a Roman point of view or a Hebrew point of view. So you have to try to get in there and figure it out. There's a huge difference in the words the and a.
Yeah.
And there's a reason why those are there. There's a reason behind all of that. I love to dig into it. I'm real big in biblical history. A really good book that I think you would like is Supernatural by Dr. Michael Heiser.
I heard of Michael Heiser. I didn't hear of the book.
Yeah, the book. I sell books at the shop too. And what I do is I find these books that just beat me down, like books that make me rethink certain things. And then I order a bunch of them and I'm like, hey, let's put them for sale.
Hey.
So Supernatural is a really good one, man. It talks about like before Earth existed, what existed.
Hey.
And then it goes through Genesis and how it tells you what existed, and it talks about other things. And man, it's good. It's a good one.
It's funny when the Lord opens your eyes to something. It's just like a prime example of that happened to me last night. Brother Aubrey was on the podcast, and he talked about the 10 virgins, and we said the lamp represent the Word of God, and the oil meant the Holy Spirit. And he said, every one of them had a lamp. And it opened my eyes to something. Like, wait a minute, it's true. They all had the word, but they all didn't have the anointing.
Not had enough.
They didn't have
You
enough.
know, they brought the oil they thought they needed, and others were like, how many other ones was it?
Five. Wise,
Five brought
foolish.
extra oil. You know, and it wasn't for them to share with others. That was for them to have. You know, on that instance. And we talk about like the fruit of the vine. So who's the fruit of the vine for? How many grape vines do you know that eat their own grapes? None. So the fruit of the vine's not for you. If you're the vine, the fruit that you bear is not for you to consume. It's for others.
Hey, that's good right there.
So
We're having a Bible study on the Cajun Conservative. Well, Caleb, before we roll out, tell us a little bit about the shop and where people can find you if they have any questions or concerns.
So we've been in business 4 years, right? And I've been in the gun industry for a long time. I got in this industry when I was 17. Left, joined the military, did a lot of work with the military and all that, and did some good times, some fun stuff, and always wanted to kind of get back into it. And I'm blessed to have the shop that I have. I've got a great group of guys that work with me. My wife works with me now too. The kids help out at the shop, you know, and we get to do this and have this outreach where we do firearms, suppressors, knives, Bibles, and coffee, man. Like it's a really weird
things
blend.
that made America great.
Yeah, you know, it's when you walk into the shop, we want you to feel comfortable, want you to feel welcome, because these are the kind of conversations we like to have. You know, we want you to come in there and really see who we are, you know. So we try to be real different, man. But you can find us online, naturally, like everything else is online, therusticrenegade.com, or come by the shop. Our address down here is 2842 Northeast Evangeline Thruway. And we're closed every Sunday and Monday because we all need time to recharge, man.
Ain't nothing wrong with that.
You know, you have to have a moment to get back and reconvene, reconnect. So.
What's your times? I know you. I think it's like from 9 to 5 or something.
Yeah.
Like
So Tuesday through Friday, it's 0930 to 1700. So 0930 to 5, and then Saturday 0930 to 330. Do we want it to be open late on Saturdays? So I say we. I want it to be open late on Saturdays, and I'm a certified workaholic. When I say certified, I don't have a stamp or anything, but I know I'm a workaholic. So it was hard for me to say, look, I'm doing this to have a better family and to be with my family more, and we had to put some constraints on that. So 3:30 is when we close on Saturdays.
Ain't nothing wrong with that, my brother. I appreciate you coming over, and hope we can do this again soon.
Well, I'm sure we can,
know,
and I definitely I got some people that you'd love to pick their brains and talk to.
Oh
them,
yeah. Well, and look, man, hey, I'm going to tell the guys from Culper's Canteen Cup about you. 'Cause look, guys, if y'all listen, Josh, Roger, and Luke, you need to get this man on your podcast. Great group of guys out there, Culper's Canteen Cup. Also, go check out Scott Ford from the Scott Ford Show. Caleb, thank you again, man. It's an honor and a blessing to have you here with me tonight. And I just like you said, just chill, relax, and talk about the word and talk about things happening in our nation. It's going to get better, hopefully. So
I mean, whether it gets better or not, right? We already know where we're going.
Yep.
We're already living the right life, and we're going to make a difference. No matter what, we'll make a difference.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So until next time.
Appreciate you, bro.
All right, guys, that was Caleb Morse from the Rustic Renegade, also co-host of Implicit Bias and Firearm Friday on KPL 96.5. You can find that in the Lafayette area. So until next time, be blessed, be encouraged. Remember, Jesus Christ is coming back, and he's coming back soon. So don't be faint of heart, because Jesus has overcome the world. You have a good one.
Open door. He said that Jesus Christ has risen, and he is the open